All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Writing Gothic, the place where you can incorporate Gothic storytelling to supercharge your writing. I'm Kevin Williams. I'm your host and guide. And on today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Nosferatu trailer, which is the 1922 movie, but there's a remake that's coming out in December, directed by Robert Eggars, and it is a pure Gothic horror film, and I'm so excited for it. But there's probably been other breakdowns of the trailer, so I'm not really going to do a breakdown of it, but more I'm going to talk about just a little bit about how this trailer incorporates Gothic storytelling tropes. And I think in the very first video, I talked about how there are certain tropes within Gothic storytelling that occur again and again. So on this one, I'm just going to kind of highlight a few of those. And then in subsequent videos, I'll kind of talk a little bit more about these tropes, but we're going to watch this right now. And hopefully I can do this without it being a rookie move.
Does evil come from within us?
He is coming to us. Nosferatu.
Oh boy. All right. Well, that was Nosferatu. And as I look at this trailer, to me, it incorporates all the Gothic storytelling tropes that I mentioned in that first video. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but I'm just going to kind of quickly go through some of the tropes that I mentioned in that video. And I think what I talked about was that there's tons of tropes in Gothic storytelling, but some of the ones that I highlighted in the last video are things like desolate environments, where there's environments like castles or mansions or haunted places or basements, things like that. There's always a sense of isolation amongst the characters, whether that is an actual physical isolation or isolation within the character's mind. Also, there's feelings of dread or fear, superstitions that are taking place. There could also be the supernatural, and there could be creatures, and in this one, obviously, there's vampires, and there are also sometimes there could be psychic links between one or more characters related to something. And these are just some of the tropes, but in looking at this video, I can see many, many, many of these tropes that are embedded just within the video. And again, the movie doesn't even come out till December, but just looking at this, and based on like my research that I've done about Gothic tropes and Gothic storytelling over the years, I can already see that Robert Eggars has really steeped himself in Gothic storytelling. And here's a point of just a note for you all. The original Nosferatu was made in 1922, or at least it came out in 1922, and it was directed by F.W. Murnau. And that was, it was really an unofficial adaptation of Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And the reason it's called Nosferatu is because they had to change the title, and they had to change all the characters because Bram Stoker's widow at the time, because he had already passed, she sued, I think, the producers and the production because they created an unauthorized version. They didn't get the rights from her, or she didn't give them the rights. I'm not exactly sure which. I have to go back and do that little bit of research. But so basically she sued them, and I think they destroyed most of the copies during that period, but several copies survived. And that's why we have that version. You can always go back, and I think it's in the public domain, I'm pretty sure. But Nosferatu did survive. And so that way, so instead of Count Dracula, I believe the Count's name is Count Orlok. And then the Van Helsing character is named something completely different. So if you know anything about the Dracula movies, any version that you've ever watched, my personal favorite is the Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. And in that version, you've got Jonathan Harker, Mina Murray, actually, and now that she becomes Harker at some point in time. Lucy Westerna, and then all the various characters. But they're all present in the novel, and they're all present in the story. And then in other iterations, sometimes they mix and match characters, but for the most part, most of the characters are present. But in this story, they're gonna be different names. But you're gonna notice that there is not quite a 1-for-1 character match, but you'll look at these characters and you'll say, oh wait, that seems like that could be the Van Helsing character. That's because it was based on Van Helsing. But in looking at this trailer again, you'll see many instances of what I call the Gothic storytelling, and then again referencing what I talked about last week. And I just want to share my screen one more time so you can see what I'm talking about. In this first frame right here, you can see that this character, played by Lily Depp Rose, I believe her name is, she's calling out to a character, which I'm assuming is the vampire. And she's calling out to him. And then I'm going to mute it so that way it doesn't start playing. But then in the very next frame, you see that as she's looking out a window, and then a hand grabs her throat. And when it does, it's like you see that I don't think the hand is actually grabbing her, but I believe this is a psychic connection that she's having. She's somehow psychically connected to that vampire. And you also notice there's another trope already embedded in here, that she's isolated. Now, I don't know whether whether she's sleepwalking or whether she's having a dream, but you see that she's already isolated probably from the rest of the characters in the film. And I'm just going to jump forward to one of my couple of different shots here over this title card. You'll see that if you notice the architecture here, this is Gothic architecture. Notice these tall towers, these spires here. This is definitely Gothic architecture, which is very important and prevalent in Gothic storytelling. Now, just a point here that you don't have to have Gothic architecture in every single movie that you think might be a Gothic movie. There are a lot of contemporary movies that don't have Gothic architecture, but what you'll see shades or echoes of Gothic architecture. For instance, one of my favorite movies is Candyman, made I think it's 1992. And in that movie, it takes place in what was then contemporary Chicago. Well, there's no Gothic architecture in Chicago, but you will see shades, you will see hints of Gothic architecture or the way buildings are framed. And then I'm just going to fast forward this to one of my favorite shots here. This is Willem Dafoe as what I call the Van Helsing sort of character. But this shot here I'm going to back up just a teeny bit, where this carriage is on its way to this castle. This is classic Gothic architecture. There's a castle up here on the hill. These are cliffs. It appears to be in some mountainous valley. I mean, you could pull this straight out of a Hammer film from the 60s or 70s. And so when I look at Gothic storytelling, this is probably what comes to mind. But there's lots of instances of this all throughout the frame, especially this particular image here. The rats being controlled by something supernatural, probably Dracula. And then this frame here, this disembodied hand. I know this is a surrealistic image, but you can see how this is the spreading influence probably of the vampire as it seeks to take over this town. And I don't think this is London. It's probably Amsterdam or somewhere in Germany or something like that. But all throughout this trailer, you can see there's references to Gothic storytelling. So I just wanted to point that out. And again, watch the trailer and then go through it like I did. Like I watched it multiple times when it came out, and then I rewatched it, keeping in mind Gothic. I mean, I saw the tropes right away because again, I kind of looked for it. They kind of jump out at me. But if you're interested in Gothic storytelling and you're interested in trying to add this to kind of supercharge your writing, I'll talk about this in subsequent videos, but this is a great place to kind of see those tropes in action and in a movie that hasn't even come out yet. So in December, I'll definitely do like a full breakdown of this movie after I've seen it, because I'm sure I will see it multiple times. But thank you very much. And if this content is interesting to you, please like and subscribe. And I want to try to build this channel and put some comments below, because again, I have no idea right now who's even watching these videos. So if you can comment and tell me like what your favorite Gothic movies are, or movies that you think, if you have questions, if you think, hey, Kevin, is this a Gothic movie? Because it could be something that's contemporary, but that might have Gothic influences, because I have plenty of movies that I've done on my companion podcast. It's called Speaking of Gothic. You can find it on all major channels, where I talk about movies like Alien, like Candyman, like Overlord, which came out in 2018, where they're not, on the surface, they don't look like Gothic movies, but they definitely have elements of the Gothic in them. So until the next video, thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.